us, Jess Belmosto joining us. Yes, I know it's not really a beautiful sight to see when you have the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Final, but like I've said, I've been very happy with Connor McDavid at the end of this thing. But I think about the trade, Jonathan Huberdeau and Matthew Tkachuk. When Matthew Tkachuk, being a part of the Calgary Flames, and before that trade happened, I mean, I loved kind of just the attitude he brought because he was the kind that was coming at you from all angles, whether scoring or whether he was ready to give you a shoulder. And so when you think about that and his time in Calgary and the time he could potentially now become a Stanley Cup champion, I mean, it's kind of got to feel good, but then at the same time, it's really got to be the fuel of the fire for the Flames to really kind of get better at this point, right?
Absolutely. It definitely feels, I guess, like a double-edged sword because you absolutely despise the Edmonton Oilers with every fiber of your being. But then to see Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, who was traded a few years before Tkachuk to Florida, in back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, well, your season, you've been hitting the golf course for 2 months now. Like, it's not exactly the warm and fuzzy feeling you want to have. And I hope it motivates the Flames. I mean, they have to find it within themselves to get better. They absolutely have to.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this year's offseason is going to be like for the Calgary Flames because, I mean, in the end, I felt like this team was on the right track with Daryl Sutter as head coach, but then things started to change. I mean, you had the initial trade for Jonathan Huberdeau, but I mean, they got a lot of work to do. I mean, they've traded away a couple of pieces. They traded this year Noah Hannafin to the Vegas Golden Knights. So, getting rid of some of the players who I would say were looking for new contracts. They just weren't sure if Calgary was going to pay up for it. But to get some draft capital and to, at the very least, kind of replenish a lot of that, what's kind of the outlook for the Flames moving forward in the offseason? I mean, there's kind of a lot of some positions to address this year, right?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot to clean up. Brad Treliving, the former general manager, didn't renew his contract last season. So it was Craig Conroy's first time as a general manager, and he had a lot to do. He had 7 pending UFAs. He ended up trading, I think, 5 or 6 of them. And there's just been a lot of noise between choosing a direction. Like, are we going to continue down this path of we think we can be a fringe playoff team, or taking a step back for maybe 3 to 4 seasons and being competitive, especially when our brand new taxpayer-funded arena opens?
Yeah. No, it really will be interesting to say the least because, I mean, I look at this roster and I just feel like there is some speed and there is some scoring. When you think of Blake Coleman and Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau and even Dylan DeBay, I mean, there's some promise at least to this roster. But I mean, the question marks right now, and one player to focus on is Jacob Markstrom. Since he's been in this organization, we thought there was going to be a needle moving for this team to get better. And unfortunately, it just, for his mindset, it hasn't looked like that. And then there's been some trade rumors. What's been the latest status on Jacob Markstrom? Because I just feel like he's not happy there. It feels like he wants a change of scenery. Is that something that should be addressed or will be addressed? And how would that impact Calgary in the goaltending department?
So earlier today, it came out that I guess Jacob Markstrom hasn't officially requested a trade, which, that's kind of reassuring because you you don't want to bring back a disgruntled player if you can obviously avoid it. And it sounds like they're going to be trading him ahead of the draft, but Craig Conroy's kind of made it clear that everything that we're doing is going to be behind closed doors, and when the public's meant to know, we'll know. They absolutely mishandled the trade deadline, just fumbling the trade with New Jersey, and it had an impact on Markstrom, and I don't blame him at all. When you do the organization a favor by waiving your no movement clause and agree to go across the continent to New Jersey, it's a lot. And the Flames have their next goaltender in the pipeline with Dustin Wolf, and he's ready to take this step into the NHL. It's just a matter of clearing that log jam with Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah. And so I think about too, like, because the Pacific Division, it's really getting tougher. I mean, we watch Vegas, we watch Edmonton, we watch the Kings, and multiple other teams that are also building up to make this arguably a very competitive division. So, and I mean, San Jose clearly is in big time rebuild mode. Seattle, I felt like, they made it to as far as the second round last year. And then they just kind of took a fall off the step. I don't know if there's a rebound season in place. We know that there's new coaching regime. But I mean, this could be the opportunity, because when they're looking at a lot of their opponents up top, like we've seen from some teams, you saw from Dallas and you saw from a couple of other teams, that many teams that are high scoring, like a Colorado, like a Vegas, like a lot of teams, they have to find the right defensemen that are willing to sacrifice their bodies up front when it comes to shots they need to block. And at the same time, they just really have to get precise with their passing. So, I mean, that's kind of safe to say is something that I think Calgary really wants to look for in the offseason this year.
100%. And they were so lucky to have Chris Tanev for as long as they did. That man would probably, leave it all out on the ice. He has, taken pucks to the face. He's blocked hundreds and hundreds of shots. And he's just a great defenseman. And I feel old saying this, but like, they don't make defensemen like him anymore. Yeah. That he is just a through and through true defensive defenseman. He's not focused on goal scoring. Mackenzie Weegar, who they acquired through the Matthew Tkachuk trade along with Jonathan Huberdeau, has really blossomed, I would say, in the aspect of being like willing to block shots and lay it all out there. And he also has an offensive edge to his game, which is even better, because as we've seen, the Flames need to score a lot more goals if they want to win.
Yeah. And one of the names too that has definitely popped up with the Calgary Flames, to which Flame fans are big time fans of, is Andrew Mangiapane. I mean, the guy, I've been excited for the kid, and I think that there has been many moments where I have seen him blossom. I mean, when you look at the development of what the Flames, what their offense really has been based around, Mangiapane at times would just definitely give you clutch shots when you need it, and especially you're down a goal or two, you find ways to get yourself back into the game. I mean, what's the impact felt like for, at least for Giapane? Because I'm just hoping that, that is one player they could surround themselves with and still build upon more stars in the near future.
So unfortunately, it does sound like he is going to be traded this season. He is a free agent at the end of next season, so the 24-25 season. And it came out today that it doesn't look like he wants to sign long-term in Calgary. And I mean, I don't entirely blame him. He had a really good start to his career here, and once he signed an extension, it just kind of all went, there was regression compared to his career year in 2021. So, I mean, I would love for him to have a resurgence and just kind of, even add to his trade value if he does decide, ship me out of here come March. That's fine. I think that I've had an absolute pleasure of covering him, and he's a really good guy, does a lot for the community, and I wish that things could have been different for him. And I feel like that's kind of the unfortunate part of most of what's left of this Flames core.
Yeah. No, and hopefully, like I said, I mean, with youngsters, we know that the draft is going to be coming up in Vegas again. And, and there are some really good prospects to keep an eye out for. But hopefully, again, if, come trades, because it's going to be a hefty offseason all the way through at the end of the day, because there's many teams that are basically looking for positions to fill. There's also some players that are looking for new contracts. So it's interesting to see how this hockey offseason really will pan out. But a fun question for you, because, of course, as we're seeing the Edmonton Oilers right now being the team representing Canada, I mean, I talked to one who covered the Canucks. He's like, I'm not a fan of this. But so I love rivalries. I really do. I go back from the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Giants, and even when I covered with, a previous one with the Islanders and the Rangers. When I look at the Battle of Alberta, I've seen it multiple times where even when I watched clips where Zach Cassian would just be going at it every time. When you think of this Flames-Oilers rivalry, I mean, this is one that I feel like really kind of comes down toe to toe with each other. And it don't matter at the end of the day. By the time that, like, from beginning to end, it's a bloodbath waiting to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2020, they had 2 line brawls within a matter of weeks, and it reignited something, I think, within the Flames, and they were kind of on that turning point where they were finally becoming like truly competitive. That didn't last long, but the two teams met in the playoffs a few years ago. Obviously, Edmonton won that series, but no matter how bad either team is, they go toe to toe. Like, it is like a Stanley Cup game 7. Like, this is like they're fighting for their honor and pride for Alberta, and it's absolutely incredible. And being an outsider from Boston, like, I grew up with the Red Sox, Yankees, and like the prime, like the thick of things, and getting to cover this has been, I mean, a lot more fun because I'm an adult and like I understand what's going on. But it's some heavy stuff that both fan bases, they don't take things lightly. It's so fun.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, again, the smack talking, I mean, like I said early on the show, I was talking about it with, the Angel Reese and the Caitlin Clark thing. I mean, look, it's in the prime of the WNBA. I don't understand. I just think mainstream media just doesn't know how to take it. They don't really know how to describe it. But it's like you and I, we've watched sports so much that we've seen this before. I mean, you've got the hero and you've got the villain. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. But, and I'll have mixtures of stars up from, here and there. But it's just like, I don't really get it. But then, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. It's what brings the beauty of the sport together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, if you're watching sports as a fan and for like pure entertainment rather than going in to produce a show the next day on ESPN that, viewership is going to get you your next multi-million-dollar contract for reactionary and these viral clips. It is so different because, a foul is a foul. Like,
Yeah.
it is part of the game. There's competitiveness. Believe it or not, these are pro athletes. They've been competitive probably since they could walk. Like, this isn't anything new. And I feel like it just has been blown out of proportion so many different ways. And let's just all remember what we're here for.
Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that we do. I mean, I've been saying it. I've been nabbed the title America's Honesty Mind because I'm trying to find the silver lining behind both stories to kind of give it a balanced, unbiased opinion. And at the same time, I'm getting experiences from many people who cover specific teams and how they feel with it. And so it's such a beauty to even do this for 4+ years running. And so that's why I'm trying to get up there to the top to where, I'm there competing with the cowherds and all these people. And so, but I would say a fun one before letting you go. Born and raised in Vegas my entire life, hockey was never even thought of, even though it had the Thunder, it had the Wranglers, and eventually became the Golden Knights. So I was happy when the time that, and yes, it took 6 years, faster than any other teams that have. I just felt so happy, so proud because as somebody, as a Vegas native, not a lot of people paid attention so heavily up on hockey. But by the time that they arrived in 2017, organically built, they give back to their programs. They give back to the community, and they gave the community something to believe in. So by the time they won it this past year, it lifted an entire city up to where it was like, I got a chance to witness my hometown win it. Calgary does have a championship on their belt with the old Lanny McDonald finally getting one respectfully. So when you think of hoisting Sir Stanley, I mean, it's such a surreal moment. I said that is the hardest trophy of all major sports to win, to claim, to hoist. So to hoist it, I mean, it's such a surreal feeling, right?
I can only imagine. I mean, even in the playoff run the Flames had a few years ago, it felt so special, and it was so unexpected that, if they made it out of the first round, great. They were going up against the Oilers. Okay, probably knew it wasn't going to be an easy series, but getting eliminated in 5, not great. But the atmosphere, the way that the fans just gathered at the bars, at the viewing parties, at the Saddle Dome, it's incredible. And there's fan bases that, I feel like we always have this conversation, who's the most deserving or who's the least deserving to win the cup. And it's like, everyone eventually deserves it. And I think, for the last 34, 35 years, the Flames fans have just been through it. It is generational. And I hope within the next, 10 years, they're able to kind of retool their prospect pool and get better. Because, I mean, they're going to have a new arena soon, and they're going to want to put butts in the seats.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you put in a new arena and you just it's a one of a kind. I mean, I like I said, I've been to 18 Golden Knights games in my life in T-Mobile Arena. So energizing, and it's so intimidating for other teams. But the atmosphere and the energy is absolutely surreal, and everybody is invested in. So when you get a new arena and, again, the players feel great, the fan base feels stronger, it really does make a huge difference. And, the thing I've said, before coming on and starting up onto the show, we had our previous guest for the Angels. I've said that I was happy for Connor McDavid. I really was, because he's such a polarizing star. And we know as a Canadian, he's the icon of Canadian hockey. And to be a part of an organization like Edmonton, when we all watched Wayne Gretzky, I mean, the guy was incredible. So, and like I said, my only wish is I would wish that Mike Trout would be in the World Series, because I feel like the two of them are so just scary identical because they just are so special in each of their positions and for their respective sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as much as I don't like the Oilers, it is very difficult to root against Connor McDavid as a player. He is just not human. I don't know how he does it, and just the skill level, the dedication. When he had a significant knee injury a few years ago, he did like 1,000 hours of physical therapy that was supposed to take like 6 months in a much shorter period of time so he could be back ready for the start of the season. And yeah, that's probably not like the best idea, but it just shows his dedication and his commitment to his craft. And he eventually deserves a Stanley Cup. I don't know if that's this year, but I hope in his career he gets to lift it.
Oh man, that would be an absolute surreal moment. I mean, when you get polarizing stars who win a championship, it's just such a higher feeling at the end of the day, and it really does mean a lot even for the organization. But for a career like that, I mean, multiple MVPs, multiple, I mean, the trophy cases are getting higher and higher, but to have that eventually, I mean, to leaving it vacant for so long, that's why I felt bad for Joe Pavelski. I thought he was a great player, but to never win a championship is just so hard. And I'm like, but it's never easy to go through this. I mean, Lanny McDonald went through this. Ray Bourque went through this. Multiple players that you knew respectfully, they deserved it. They were hard workers out there that they deserve a chance to hoist Sir Stanley at some point. But Jess, appreciate you taking the time. Where can everybody find you if we're heating things up, especially with a Stanley Cup Final, where they can tune in for those Calgary Flames?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and you can find Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're still Monday through Friday until I think like the middle towards the end of July. So like I've got you covered from crazy trade rumors to, actual things that are happening. But yeah, you can find me anywhere. And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we shall see exactly what the offseason has in store for the Calgary Flames. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Absolutely.